Good morning, Tallahassee. It's time to wake up Warchant on 97.9 ESPN Radio. Here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It is Wake Up Warchant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Welcome to it. It's brought to you by For the Table Hospitality and their three great locations over in the College Town District, Central, Madison Social, and Township. They all should be popping, as the kids would say, because it's here. The regionals.
And the weather. And the weather. So you something to do in between during rain delays and stuff.
That's a good way to look at it. He's Corey Clark, everybody. Corey,
what's up?
Am I rubbing off on you? The skeptical guy right now? You're supposed to be the ray of sunshine, you know?
Oh, if only we got some rays of sunshine this weekend. I've been through enough of regionals, and people know if they follow me on Twitter how frustrating some of these quote unquote weather delays can be, where there's lightning within somewhere in the panhandle. Often that you can't even see it.
Into Funiac Springs.
But you got to get them off the field. So that gets to be a little old when there are weather delays, when it's partly cloudy. That can be a little old. But, what are you going to do? Maybe we'll have no stoppages at all. It'll just be 3-4 straight games of just great weather.
Think it, see it, believe it, achieve it.
Right, in that order.
If you're listening to this right now, there's a high chance that Florida State dropped their opener against UCLA. As you know, sometimes, always, we record the show. So the plan is to, I reached out at the last minute, which is just a terrible sort of character flaw, one of many of mine. Also, Corey, as he's witnessing here, as he works with me, I'm never on time. We set,
You're close. You're close. You're 8 minutes late. That's not a big deal.
It is, though. I don't like when people make me
late.
late.
I know. Yeah, I agree.
Well, then what? So are you upset?
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. It's fine.
Whatever. I reached out to the softball team to see if we could get Coach Almeida on the show in the event that they were to win. So if you're listening to Corey and I right now, it's probably because either A, we couldn't get a hold of them, which is a probability. I mean, they're busy. They're playing a game. They got a whole bunch of stuff on their plate. Or they ultimately lost, and there's no reason to talk to the coach after they lose because nobody wants to talk after that. But I'm excited, man. I know we have to look at traffic. There's numbers. I don't know. I think it's a big deal when you make it to the Elite Eight of anything. I mean, the College World Series, the Women's College World Series, is gaining in popularity just as much as the baseball. I think is becoming mainstream too. So I'm excited for it. I'm going to hunker down and watch the game with I did watch the game.
That's right, man. What are you talking about? You watched it.
Yeah,
I watched it last night.
I'm
and
excited
it was
for
a tough loss for the Noles, or maybe even a great win. Either way, we hope they won, but the main thing, and it's the same thing that always happens with the baseball team. You lose your first game, man. Like we talked about yesterday, it's hard to come back. Your margin for error is done. Yeah. Like the last time they were out there, they lost the first game, I think, to Georgia, and they committed like 6 or 7 errors. They were in my opinion, they were a much better team than Georgia. But they gave Georgia like 4 or 5 unearned runs with these crazy errors. They lost by a run and then ended up winning maybe a game or 2 games. And then this Auburn girl makes this great catch in center field to rob them of like a bases-clearing double. And that's how their season ends. But it was because they put themselves in an almost unmanageable position by losing the first game. I guess this is the only way to do it. This is the only way to do these tournaments.
Well, they lost their opener, but were able to beat UCLA and then beat Michigan.
And then lost to Auburn, right?
Lost to Auburn. Yeah.
And lost to Auburn in a game where a girl made an incredible catch in center field, or Florida State wins that game and then gets to play them again. But, again, your margin for error is almost non-existent if you lose that first game. And they, frankly, blew that first game against Georgia. They literally had 5, 6, 7 errors, something ridiculous that gave Georgia that game.
5-4 loss in that game, and then they lost.
See how many errors they had?
8-7.
8-7. I like this
against Auburn. Yeah.
So 5-4 to Georgia, where I feel like they gave Georgia all those runs. But they were a really good team. They were a national championship caliber team, and they killed themselves in that first game.
So win. Hopefully they will have.
Hopefully they have won.
Only 7 errors. I mean,
you know what I'm saying? An error an inning. That's not good.
Is it? That's not good?
No, and they came back, won 2 games after that horrible showing. They came back, won 2 games, and were with Auburn right till the very end. And the girl made an incredible catch that kept them from winning that game. So it's weird that I even have a recall for softball that I wasn't even there for. I just watched on the TV. I'm sure during a rain delay at Hauser, I was watching the softball game.
Gotcha. All right, lock in. What do you think about this regional? Florida State taking on Samford at 7 o'clock, weather permitting, and then at noon, in just about over 6 hours, or maybe less than 6 hours, Mississippi State takes on Oklahoma. Listen, I don't really know a lot about Oklahoma, but that's ridiculous that Mississippi State's playing Oklahoma
You
in
are
a regional.
all about that.
I don't know why. Am I the? I guess I
You
apparently
are. You're the voice
I'm a
of
man
the
on the
wilderness.
island.
Yeah,
I'm a man on the island. That's not a big deal. It's not a big deal that you're a national seed and you're hosting two other Power 5 teams.
I think, like, at least from my perspective, being in Florida State for so long UCF is as good a program as Oklahoma. I mean, they just are. I mean, so is Stetson.
No, they're not.
In Florida, Stetson's a better team than Oklahoma.
This year they are. I mean, they're hosting. Yeah.
Sure, and UCF is about the caliber of the UCF is a typical tournament team. They're a good team. They're not a great team. So what's the difference? I mean, Mississippi State has 25 losses. I mean, you're going to have to play somebody good that second game. And there isn't much difference between a lower-tier SEC team or a middle-tier Big 12 team and UCF.
I don't know, man. 27 tournament appearances all time. They've been out to the College World Series, I think, 8 times.
Who, Oklahoma?
Yeah, 2010 most recently.
I'm sorry, I just meant like recently, not obviously all time. Like 11 talked about
11 times they made to the College World Series. I mean, there's
11
a tradition.
talked about.
There's a tradition of winning there. I mean,
right, but in this instance, there's a tradition of winning at Mississippi State. That doesn't mean this team is all that good. They're
I
an
still
okay
don't want to
team.
play a team with that kind of pedigree, with that kind of DNA. I'd rather play UCF. Yeah, they're good. They're good, but then they wilt in a regional every year. They don't make it to supers. Stetson doesn't make it to supers.
They might this year, buddy. They might this year. I mean, I get you. I don't think this Oklahoma team and this Mississippi State team. I mean, they're not good. They're not great teams by any stretch. They probably have a little more pitching than most teams that would come in here. But I mean, UCF has been a decent program for a while. You know, or Stetson this year. Stetson this year has some big arms.
They're a game opponent. They're a worthy adversary, but they don't ever go anywhere. They don't go to Omaha.
Yeah, but they play the same teams every year. Like Florida seems to play the same teams in their regional every year. It's the MEAC team and then 2 teams from Florida that aren't very good, typically. I think it's kind of cool that you're getting a couple teams you don't get to see here very often. And you're getting to see some guys that will probably play in the major leagues one day. Yeah. That's kind of neat if you're a baseball fan.
The wild card in this is Mississippi State with their interim coach who's been there all season, as we touched on earlier in the week. You know, Andy Cannizzaro was their head coach and was dismissed for, improper. Listen, I don't get this. I'm not trying to in any way, shape, or form advocate for being unfaithful to one's spouse. But how can you get fired for cheating on your wife?
Yeah, you kind of bring morality into it a little bit. Yeah, it's just not a good look. He might have resigned after it became public.
He had to. I mean, he was forced out. This wasn't like take the red pill, take the blue pill. It was take the Greyhound.
Yeah, it's odd. College sports is odd like that, man. You know,
I get with Hugh Freeze, like escorts, company.
Well, and he had a lot of stuff going on with that program, and that was like the one thing that they finally could hang on him. But he had a lot of stuff going on. Plus, my man was just so hypocritical with his tweets and his just everything about him. Yeah. And then to be doing that on the side is like, come on, man.
The Reverend.
That's just it's a cliche almost. It's
Reverend
so hypocritical.
Freeze. Yeah.
This guy, I don't know how that happened. Didn't see now. Petrino lost his job, but he lost his job because he lied about it.
Yeah.
But would he have lost his job even if he had said, "Yes, I had my mistress on the back of my motorcycle"?
You know, I think there might have been misappropriation of funds. Perhaps I think he might have used like company money to maybe set up rendezvous. So then that starts getting into gray.
That's not really gray. That's kind of white and black. You don't do that with the. I mean, you just shouldn't do that. You can be smarter than that.
Again,
Hugh Freeze could have had another phone.
Yeah. Should have talked to Brian Colangelo.
I mean, get your burr, man, for heaven's sake.
But I think that's the wild card in this regional, I think, is Mississippi State and whether or not Gary Henderson, their interim coach, is just going to kind of be along for the ride. Will he get tense in this moment, or will he be able to manage that team loose? Because
sorry, not to interrupt. The point I was going to make about the Power 5 team, though, is you would assume, even if like FIU was the 3 seed, you would assume you're playing a Power 5 team in your next game if you win. You assume you're going to be playing. You're going to assume you're going to play Mississippi State. So typically, Florida State is playing a Power 5 team in that second game anyway. That was my point. You're only playing one of them.
Well, just if you lose this, I mean, this is
You're
a lot.
in trouble.
It's a lot more difficult path to win it.
The year that Buster in 2008, they had to play Florida in the elimination game on Saturday because Florida had lost the first game, and then Florida State inexplicably got shut out by Bucknell. The best hitting team in Florida State history loses 7-0 in the opener. So they're having to play at noon on a Saturday against Florida to keep their season alive.
Yeah.
So even then, that was weird that happened. I don't remember who they played last year in their second game because they lost to Tennessee Tech.
Was it UCF, I think, right? It was UCF
yeah.
and Auburn.
And then Auburn, then Tennessee Tech, then Auburn. So, I mean, you're going to play a Power 5 team if you're going to win you're usually going to have to beat a Power 5 team twice to win your regional.
It's just still, I think it's just a bit tough. And you're 7 seed, and 11. When I asked him that, was like, listen, we've all played really hard schedules. It's like, yeah, you've played really hard schedules, and you come out with as a national seed, number 7 seed. Like, you should not have this treacherous of a trek just to get out of your own regional. But
they also proved they could lose to Tennessee Tech last year.
They did.
So they can certainly lose to old Samford.
So, yeah, get out there if you guys want. Watch that game. And, ladies, it should be a good one. I think, Oklahoma, again, their starting center fielder is their projected starting quarterback, Kyler Murray. So,
and they have another outfielder that's supposed to be a first-round pick, too.
Yeah.
They got 2 legitimate outfielders that can play.
And then Mississippi State, real quick story, their starting center fielder, Jake Mangum, I covered him in high school. His father, actually, John Mangum, played in the backfield, not the backfield, the back end of the defense for the 85 Bears.
Oh, okay.
Safety,
all right.
yeah.
All right. Yeah. Did he start?
Yeah, man.
He was on the 46th defense.
Caucasian guy back there holding it down.
So they had 2, because Gary Finsick was one of their safeties, too, on that team.
He played for Bama, Mangum, and he actually was committed to Alabama, I think, shortly in baseball. His son, Jake, who's the starting center fielder now for Mississippi State. Great kid, awesome kid. And ended up going to Mississippi State, though. But he was, I think when he was a freshman, true freshman, he led the SEC in hitting. So
wow.
He's kind of the straw that stirs their drink. But it was cool, actually. Another thing, just to humble brag on it, I was walking out just to snap a photo of the outfield because they were practicing just to kind of show to the Mississippi State people who still follow me on Twitter. And he saw me, like, all the way from, like, where we did our little stand-up thing. He was all the way in center field shack, and he's like, Aslan.
Oh, really?
Like, dude, you remember me. I mean, like, I covered the guy for
like
3 years.
Still an eagle eye, though, to even be looking over
I know,
there.
yeah. That's what I said. I'm like, good eye on that guy. He's probably really tough behind the dish. So, anyhow, that game, 7 o'clock, Florida State taking on Samford and Cole Sands.
Cole Sands is going. They're going to save Parrish for Saturday, either for an elimination game or for a big game to try to get into Game 3.
I kind of like, I don't know if I want to see Carp. I think Carp, I think he flies close to the sun. I think he gets really emotional out there. I think Cole's
like
much more.
Icarus? Is that who flew close to the sun?
Freaking A, right it is.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Crushed
it. So, yeah, I don't know. Andrew, I think he either runs really hot or it's just going to kind of fall apart. I don't think so it's more of a, I think, a coin toss.
And same with Cole Sands. Like, Cole Sands can be dominant for 4 and 5 inning stretches, and then all of a sudden walk a guy, give up a bleeder, and give up a 3-run bomb. That's happened more than a couple times this year. So you hope you can't imagine that these guys have seen a lot of 95, 96.
True.
In the Southern Conference, but if he's not, if he's missing spots, again, baseball being what it is, you could find yourself in a hole. It's funny you mentioned the kid that saw you from center field. Just, I didn't realize this, but I read a book on it, and not to get way off the rails, but apparently the biggest trait that all great hitters have in common isn't reflexes, it's eyesight. Really? Like they tested Albert Pujols, his reflexes in some machine, and he scored in like the 65th percentile.
Okay.
But with eyesight, he was in the 99th percentile. So just get some glasses on your kids at an early age.
LASIK, right? As soon as they come out the womb, just cut
it out and get them some robo eyes. But yeah, apparently that's and I know Ted Williams apparently had like 28 vision, which is much better than 20/20,
all right,
or 20/10, something like that. So yeah, you can see the spin on the ball. You pick up the spin on the ball quicker. So that's what most of the great hitters have in common is eyesight.
That was a strong first segment on a Friday. I like it. There was a lot of stuff that we weren't able to get to yesterday in terms of Renegade Express. So we're not going to call it the Renegade Express, although it kind of is. We'll get to all those questions and comments right after this here on 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Wake Up Warchant.
You're locked in to Wake Up Warchant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Welcome on back. Wake up. Bit of a change of plans here, so our first segment went quite long. So if Florida State does win the game, I'm still going to try to get Coach Almeida on the program.
If they won the game. If they had won the game already.
Yes, correct. At which point you will hear her in a special overtime segment of Wake Up Warchant, which you'll only get if you subscribe to the podcast. So if you listen to us here on 97.9 ESPN Radio exclusively, I mean, you can keep doing that, but subscribe to the podcast. It's a good way to keep up with us. And also on YouTube, we post it on YouTube as well. But if you listen to us on YouTube, there's no music because of trademark stuff. But yeah, subscribe to the podcast.
Also, you should just subscribe to the podcast anyway,
Regardless.
and rate and review it.
Yes, 5 stars.
5 stars. 4 stars is the least we'll take.
Yeah.
If you're going to do more lower than 4 stars, then just go to another podcast and rate that because we ain't having it.
Yeah,
we ain't having it.
Yeah, apparently there's also I'm beefing now with that guy I talked about on the show yesterday, the guy who started the thread on the about the boosters, and he didn't get enough love and attention from his booster associate, so he's going to stop.
Oh, is it a beef? You got a beef going?
I guess so. Yeah, people are drumming it up. He called me a jabroni.
Okay,
Which, I guess who calls people jabronis? I don't know. But anyhow, jabronis.
That's cool to start beefs with our subscribers. I like it,
man. Well, this guy he likes. I don't know. He's got a little. This is the way he rolls. I guess he's.
Is he beloved?
These Sowega guys, you Sowega people. Is that how you pronounce it? Is actually a term?
I don't know. I mean, it is a term, but I guess Sowega, Southwest Georgia.
Sowega. Yeah, but I think he's trying to take a shot at the king, but whatever, man. Yeah, just keep, just as long as you keep donating to Warchant, that's all that matters. Well, he also mentioned this, and I'm not coming at him on this. Somebody else in the thread that he started was talking about, I guess, for years, and I guess this is a complicated thing about running an athletics department. I guess for years had RV parking, and had paid a decent amount of money, I think several $1,000s a year to have that RV parking, and lost it because I guess they either upped it or somebody else. I think they made it more expensive, and somebody kind of came in and scooped it up, and everyone's like, well, that's screwed up. You've been doing it for 30 years, and then they sell it to somebody else that's going to give them a little extra money. Like, listen, I know you have to reward loyalty, but again, if we're going to get in this whole arms race, did you and I, we realize it's the reality of the things that you have to spend exorbitant amounts of money to stay up in that. But where's the line between, I don't know, loyalty between boosters and universities and their fans, but then also chasing the buck?
Yeah, and it's it's just in society, right? I remember living in an apartments, and the people that, I could live there for a year and a half, and the people that moved in after me got lower rent for a year. They'd have a yearly special where if you join now, if you rent an apartment now, you can get one for $1,000 a month, and meanwhile, I'm paying $1,250, and it's well, why wouldn't you offer that to me? And it's our cable company, any of that stuff. It's just you always feel kind of when you're a member of something for a long time, you just want to feel like you're appreciated.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I mean, I don't know if the apartment analogy works, but that's the only thing I could think of right away. But it is like that where our cable, where you're a member of one of these cable companies, and your cable bill just keeps going up and up. Meanwhile, somebody that has a trial membership or just joins gets all these great deals. And it's well, Matt, you're not really taking care of the people that are actually, keeping your business afloat. But that's a hard deal with college tickets in particular, man. Just college athletics in general. It's not like the NFL. I mean, you really do want to. These people have real affinity for this place in this program, and they've been doing it for a long time. And you want to keep that connection. At the same time, you are trying to modernize, and you can't just keep flat rates.
Yeah.
But you don't want them to feel like they've been jilted or they're not appreciated. And every year you're asking for more and more and more without appreciating for what they've done. It's a hard deal, and it's frankly kind of hard for us to talk about. We get paid to go to games.
Yeah.
We get free parking passes. Not real close, but we get to park for free. Yeah. So it's kind of hard for us to comment on stuff like that. I just know my dad was Golden Chief forever, and I do remember the 2007 Alabama game. Maybe it was the West Virginia game. Yeah, it was the 2009 West Virginia game. He said, "Yeah, I'm going to get 8 to 10 tickets for because it was Bound's last game."
Okay.
I'm like, "Dad, they're only giving 2 to everyone. No, that's the limit." And he laughed and goes, "Turk." He used to call me Turk. He goes, "Turk, trust me, I can get whatever I want. I'm going to get 8 or 10." And then, nope, he was told by the ticket office, "Sorry, you're only getting 2." And he was livid because he's like, "Okay, you're taking care of the people that give $200 a year. Meanwhile, I give $10,000 a year, and I get the same amount of tickets as the person that gives, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore." And they made a lot of other sacrifices later on for the next season to help him, be okay with that situation. But you get it, right?
Yeah. Oh, listen, I'm not faulting people. The way you want to spend your money, spend it. I'm not the guy that's trying to tell people
and you
how
want
to spend
feel
their
appreciated if you've been spending money with somebody for that long.
And I agree. I mean, the thread here that I'm talking about, the comment actually from the poster says, "I ended my 37-year season ticket order this year also, mostly due to getting bumped out of RV parking for the Silver and Gold Chiefs." I mean, and again, you're loyal for that long, and the amount of money you've spent over 37 years pales in comparison to what a Golden Chief would throw in for 1 year to get that spot. So that's not fair. But I mean, this is going off on the rails here too. And we were at the regional press conference, and they had the stats printed out from all the teams that are there. Well, the SoCon had their own stats printed out, and they had the Florida State logo of old. They had the old Florida State had the old logo that a lot of us like.
That one up.
In Alabama, they talked about Auburn family. Like Auburn, that's their thing. They talk about family. Clemson talks about family. I don't want to say there's a disconnect, but I don't feel there is that sort of synergy, that synergistic love between the fan base and the administration at Florida State. Whether it's something as trivial as people think is that logo. A lot of people make fun of people who are still mad about it. It's just a logo. Get on with it. Listen, man, the jerseys and everything, that was a part of the brand. That's what people grew up watching. And then all of a sudden you're just going to change it willy-nilly for I don't know how many, a few $1 million from Nike?
Yeah.
I know people haven't, say what you will about what Dave Hart was. I think Dave Hart was a guy who knew this school loved their football, and I think Stan Wilcox gets that as well. But like when you have an athletic director who's also maybe a guy who's not football first, when you're at a football first university, there's just a lot of weird sort of dynamics that, I know there's people that love this university. I see it every time I go on these Willie Taggart booster tours. I'm like, golly, like these people love this. And they're skipping out of work to come hang out and spend, $200 a plate dinner to hang out with the coach. But there's not that. I don't know if it's because of the age of the university or we just haven't figured it out. I don't feel there is that sort of unrequited love between the fans and the way, the admin runs stuff and vice versa. I don't know if there's ever really a solution to that or how you can find one.
Yeah, I don't know. And I haven't been around other universities enough to know. I think a lot of it is just there aren't enough generations that have done it. Auburn is an old-ass school.
Yeah.
So is Alabama, so is Georgia. Florida State really didn't become co-ed until 47. Didn't start becoming a power in sports until the 80s, really. I know they had some nice moments in football in the 60s, and they got Burt Reynolds. But, so, it's just maybe it takes time, and that will develop. But, yeah, it does feel different than the other schools around here. But all the other schools around here are those crazy SEC fans. Yeah. So you're comparing yourself to those people.
All right, let's
like comparing yourself to the folks at the carnival.
Touche. Let's get to at least one question. Bolly, and then we have the struggle of pronounce it Bolly or Bolly. He wants to know about the entire rundown of the support staff. You're going to have to probably give me a commercial break to dig some of that up because they're not on the football team website. Defensive analyst, offensive analyst, grad assistant, all those kind of guys. We can maybe dig up some of the names for a break. But FSU 91 asks, Aslan and Corey, the other day you two were talking about what you see as a lack of parity or competitiveness in college football as if this is something new. Let me break this down to you softly, fellas. It's not something that is new. He says there's only 17 blood programs in major college football, blue bloods being you at least need 800 wins to fall into that category for him, and a winning percentage of at least 70%.
Is Florida State up to 800 wins?
I don't think so. We're new bloods. Alabama, Notre Dame, Southern Cal, Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma, Texas, and Nebraska, even though Nebraska's fallen under that 70% winning threshold, but he still puts them in there as blue bloods. New bloods would be the Florida schools, dominant program since 1980, very definition of, quote, new money, thus new bloods. And then there's near bloods, Penn State, Tennessee, Georgia, LSU, Auburn, Clemson. 700 wins, he says, and at least a 60% winning percentage. Those 17 schools, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but the three Florida schools, the ones I just mentioned were blue bloods and new bloods, have won the national championship in football 48 of the last 51 years. Pitt, BYU, Georgia Tech, Colorado, Washington, that whole split thing, they make up for the rest of it. So
yeah, I would say though that, and I don't even remember what I was saying. I because I thought I kind of talked myself in and out of stuff by saying there seemed to be more parity, but really there wasn't. Oklahoma, Nebraska were always good, but is Florida back in the 80s? You can say that there's new blood, but the college football was open to these three schools out of the state of Florida becoming national powers. I mean, they came out of literally almost nowhere. Mm-hmm. Miami and Florida State, for sure. Then Florida finally got its act together, stopped cheating so overtly.
Bums.
At least hired Steve Spurrier and became a national power. So it was possible for new blood to come in. BYU won a national championship in '84. Colorado and Georgia Tech split one.
Yeah.
BYU going to win a national championship ever again? Is that even possible?
It's Colorado. I mean, Colorado's
Pitt won a national championship. Can Pitt do it? College football to me isn't set up like that anymore.
Yeah.
The teams he mentioned moving forward probably are going to be the only ones I think that can compete for national championships on a yearly basis. But back in the 80s and 70s, you did have teams that would kind of come off the map and win one. Miami came off the map and then became a national power. BYU the next year won a national title. Again, Georgia Tech and Colorado tied for one in 1990. Washington tied for, won one. I guess they tied for one with Miami. But so I think back then it was more open for a new blood team to establish itself. I don't know if now in 2018
door's shut.
The door is completely shut on those schools. So I mean, there probably was a little more, maybe not parity, but there was more ability for a team to stake a claim. Yeah, there was upward mobility that isn't there anymore. You're either there or you're not. Yeah. Back then, you could still become a have if you were a have-not at the time. All it's doing now is teams are dropping off. Mm-hmm. Nobody's taking Nebraska's spot. It's just that's one less team that can win a national title.
He was saying that probably the two obvious candidates in his mind, teams that can compete. He said there's that another level of teams like Oregon, Virginia Tech, maybe even Michigan State who.
Well, I think you could say Oregon. They played for 2 national championships.
Yeah. He would say probably top candidates would be like Washington and A&M to maybe break into that, new blood or the near blood sort of category.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. I think. But they're going to come from a Power 5 school.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Back in the 80s, Miami was an independent. BYU was in whatever they were, the Mountain West, playing San Diego State Saturday nights. And Florida State was an independent. Well, now you got to be in one of the big boy conferences to have a shot.
It's just only a matter of time before the Power 5 breaks off, or at least the football teams do, and just make their own have their own governing body. They won't even be under the NCAA flag. It'll be 30 universities just playing college football.
I mean, that would be smart. Not 30. What would it be? 60, 70, Power 5? It's 12.
Yeah, but I mean, at what point is Purdue going to be like, yeah?
No, they want that money. They'll stay for the money, and that maybe they get better because they've been cut off from. They're not losing recruits to Ball State anymore.
Like is Wake? I mean, is Wake going to win? I mean,
no, but they still want to be part of that money. If they're in that conference, they got to play somebody. Florida State's got to beat up on someone. Not that they beat up on Wake last year, many years actually. But I mean, you've got 30 teams that probably have a legit shot to win a national title, but there's 60 teams that will break off. They should quite. The Power 5 football is so different than every other, except Division I basketball. It's so different than every other NCAA sport. It's not even comparable what's going on with Power 5 football as it relates to college institutions in athletics, in NCAA athletics. I mean, go to like an ACC softball tournament. It's not the same thing as it's just not.
What do you mean? In terms of?
It's terms of the money that's spent, the people that are there, the interest, mainly the money that's spent. It's so much money. And I just think eventually they're not equal, obviously. Yeah. It's weird that the NCAA football, which is a multi-billion dollar business, is under the same umbrella as
swimming
women's golf. They don't make money at all. All those other sports lose money. Women's basketball at Florida State loses money every year, lots of it. But it's supported by Florida State football. I get that. It's supported by, and that's at every school, LSU, all of them. But they're all under the same umbrella. So judge that one that's not even close to what the other 19 sports, like women's volleyball, the same enforcement, the same punishments for cheating, whatever. This is the same for women's volleyball as it is for a $1 billion industry. It just seems bizarre that they're still under the auspices of the NCAA. It's still one umbrella.
You have like small claims court, and then you have the Supreme Court. There's different levels of where you're going to go get your sort of.
So I think you're right. Justice. I think eventually the only way to save it from just you have to find a way. But that's not even
saving it, though. I mean, I think that just makes it that much more exclusive. And listen,
it just makes it essentially a minor league, which it is already. It makes it a minor league for the NFL, but it still has the Florida State logo, the new logo.
Boo. Let's get to some phone calls. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio. It's Wake Up Warchant. Come right back after this.
Darn pop-ups and video ads.
Are you wasting your time again on clickbait FSU updates that are bloated down with ads?
Yeah. And after crashing my computer, the information isn't even up to date. You're on warchant.com. What's really going on with the Seminoles?
For the real scoop, you'll need to get your own Warchant subscription.
What's it cost?
Free. There's a 30-day trial offer right now.
You know I like free. Sign me up.
Use the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Nobody has more accurate and timely information on the Noles than Warchant.com.
Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole source.
He's Corey. I'm Aslan. It's Wake Up Warchant. It's 97.9 ESPN Radio. Getting to some of the questions that slipped through the cracks the other day. Somebody had asked about the breakdown of all the support staff. I just don't even know. There's no number on it, I don't think. I mean, there is, but we don't know. I mean, they haven't disclosed us that there's 24 support staff position folks.
And what they get paid.
Which I don't really care too much about. I guess you want to know kind of who are the up-and-comers to worry about, because I guess that's one of the sort of gems that was dropped in the war room, is that Ira Jean referred to Joe Bowen, one of the defensive analysts, as a up-and-coming or a star.
Oh,
coach.
That's good. That's good news.
Shouldn't have said that. It was in the war room. You're not supposed to bring war room stuff outside the war room. Sorry.
Yeah, man. What's the punishment for that?
I don't know, man.
A little waterboarding?
Something like that. Monk's son is actually a recruiting assistant.
There you go.
Got that. Freddie Knighton is a grad assistant on offense. He goes by assistant quarterback coach is also his Twitter handle. So basically, you have to go look at these guys, and then you see who they're all following, and these are some of the other names. Brock Willis, this is the guy who's a special teams analyst for the Noles.
Okay.
John Bills, an offensive analyst. Well dressed, by the way, too, in his Twitter photo. Very sharp looking. Travis Palmer is a football student assistant, so I don't even know what the defensive side of the ball.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then Miles Notkin is also a grad assistant. So I don't know how many of these guys are the next Kirby Smart. I mean, because Kirby obviously was a GA here.
Yeah, he was.
But there aren't a lot of Butch Jones or Steve Sarkisian or Lane Kiffins either.
You know who I covered? I covered Kirby Smart in his first full-time assistant's job. I was working at the Valdosta Daily Times in 2000. I was the sports editor. Chris Hatcher got hired as the head coach. He got, I don't know where he was before that, but he got hired as the head coach. He might have been an assistant at Kentucky for Hal Mumme or something. And his first staff, Will Muschamp was the defensive coordinator, and Kirby Smart was the defensive backs coach.
At Valdosta State?
At Valdosta State for 1 year. Then Muschamp went, I believe Muschamp after 1 year went to LSU. Kirby became the defensive coordinator at Valdosta State, and then he left after that. But that's kind of interesting, right? I think he left Valdosta State to go to Florida State to be a GA. But, yeah, that was kind of cool, right?
Nice.
And he was really good friends with Bobo, Kirby Smart. I mean, they played college football together.
Mike Bobo, not Jesus.
Yeah. Not Jesus, not Bobo Wilson. And so he's a Colorado State head coach, Mike Bobo.
Ram up.
Kind of crazy, though. I remember interviewing those guys. Just, all of us were 24 years old.
Yeah.
And we've all made just great things out of it. We've all ascended to the very top of our profession.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Right?
Yeah.
So
again, there's, Willie these are a lot of, I don't want to say unproven commise, but these are young guys. These are young guys, hungry, looking for that big-time opportunity. But, yeah.
But they have a sports staff, obviously not as big as Alabama's because nobody's is. But, that's where the sport is going now. You're going to have 35 people, 40 people in polos on the sidelines, at least.
Also, you're right. Chris Hatcher was a GA at Kentucky for 2 years, and he was the quarterback and receivers coach before taking the job at Valdosta State.
And they, I don't think he won the national championship. I think he left, and then whoever took over, maybe he did. But yeah, Fabian Walker was the quarterback that won Valdosta State the national championship. Remember him?
Yeah.
Old Fabian?
Oh, yeah.
Had the bum shoulder in the Sugar Bowl, so Anquan had to start throwing it around a little bit. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, man. All right, let's get some of the questions out there that we were not able to get to from earlier in the week.
Hey guys, Jim in Tampa here. Listen, I had the honor of being able to coach Jessie Warren when she first started playing baseball at the very young age of 4 and 5 years old. So I'd like to take credit for the fact that she's so good. I taught her everything she knows. No, seriously, I'm just proud of her, and I've been watching her ever since, and she's just been amazing, so that's awesome. The other thing is, I think they actually have a chance this year to possibly win it all, so we'll see. Also, the football team, I think Willie Taggart's offense is going to blow teams out. There's not going to be any more close scoring games against teams with inferior talent. We're not going to leave people in the game, and it doesn't seem like Willie, from what I've seen, USF especially, always went for the jugular. He always ran the score up. There was never a point where he wasn't trying to score. His philosophy is stop us. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Can't wait to see it. Go Noles.
Thanks, Jim. Awesome. So we can thank you if Florida State won the previous night.
They beat UCLA on a Jesse Warren 3-run. I think back then she was probably called Jessica. In fact, she was called Jessica until like her junior year here, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, everybody call me Jessie. So that was odd, but hey, if that's what she wants to be called, that's what she wants to be called.
So she played baseball too?
Oh yeah, no.
Didn't you share? He didn't. Jim from Tampa didn't say that, but didn't you share a story about she actually played baseball or something?
She played like elite level baseball, travel ball until she was like 12 or 13. And then I thought I told. I know I told it on headlines. I thought I told it here too. And quite frankly, I'm not going to go down this road again. I've done it a lot, but it's kind of messed up that girls don't get the opportunity to play baseball. I know they can go play softball, but softball's not baseball. So anyway, she was kind of once she tried softball once, and she couldn't play. She could play high school baseball, but she wasn't going to be as good as her teammates because you're just not as big and physical as boys when you're 15 or 16 years old. So all these girls that play baseball get kind of shoehorned into going to want to play softball. But anyway, yeah, she played baseball at a very high level, travel ball and rec ball until she was like 12 or 13. And then switched over to softball and knew nothing about the sport. Didn't know there was a College World Series until she got to Florida State. Literally didn't watch. The first College World Series game she watched was her senior year is when of high school she found out, oh, Florida State's going to Oklahoma City. What is that? And then watched. She also told a funny story. She knew so little about how everything worked when they were doing the selection show. They were in the running for a national seed, and they were right there. And it paired up. It said Tennessee 8, Florida State 9, and she got all excited and cheered and jumped up and like, what are you doing? That's bad news. That means we don't get to host the Super. She didn't know that. She's just like, oh, we're just 9. That's awesome. So she didn't know they had to go to Tennessee. That meant they had to go to Tennessee.
Hey, I just grabbed this document during Jim's conversation.
Wouldn't that be cool though to coach a kid when they're like 6 that turns out to be like if one of the kids that's on Brady's team now, wouldn't it be cool to see that kid like in the major leagues one day and remember him when he's 9 or when he was 9?
Absolutely. I mean, the story I shared in the first segment about the center fielder from Mississippi State that I
saw him in high school.
Just him like knowing he still knows who I am and I see how well he's doing. I'm like, that's awesome. But I can only imagine how much more not fulfilling, but how much more like enjoying and satisfying that would be if it was like, hey man, I actually had a hand in developing that kid. If I actually coached him for instance.
A buddy of mine, his dad coached Marquise Grissom in Little League.
Oh, really?
Yeah, World Series champ for the Atlanta Braves.
Heck yeah. Got him on the cheap, pennies on the dollar from the Expos, right?
Yeah. And he set a record for hits in a postseason in 95.
Yeah.
Probably been broken since, but that was cool. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
You're fine.
What were you looking up?
I'm going to, we'll share a minute of this and we'll go to break and then we'll do our final call or two, whatever. But there's actually a document that the NCAA, that CBS Sports was able to get from the NCAA about the staff size of football programs. This was from last season. Florida State had 33 total members on staff. That was tied for second in the ACC. Clemson had 35. They were tied with Louisville. Florida State's breakdown was 10 on-field coaches, 5 strength and conditioning, 11 football ops, and 7 off-field / recruiting. But they had nobody listed as a grad assistant, which I don't think is true. They had some grad assistants. Wasn't Jerry Johnson a grad assistant?
Maybe it's paid positions?
Well, no, because grad assistants aren't paid, are they?
No, I'm saying maybe that's a list of people that are paid.
Yeah, but it has grad assistants. Like Boston College has 4.
Okay,
there's none listed
that
for
is
Florida
weird.
State, though.
Yeah, maybe they just do the books differently and call them something else.
Clemson had 35. Boston College had 9 on-field coaches. So did North Carolina. They didn't even have the full allotment.
Don't need them. Did they need them that Friday night in Chestnut Hill? They could have one coach.
Clearly not.
0 coaches.
But also, the reason we're not going to dive too far into this document here is that this is an official NCAA document for the SEC. It has 31 total staff members for Alabama. 31. Auburn has 41 according to this document.
That
42 from Georgia.
Incorrect. That seems like that might be incorrect. Like maybe Alabama calls them something else.
Yeah, I think the largest they said though was Notre Dame had 45. Notre Dame was the largest on this actual questionnaire sort of document, but clearly they're not. I mean, it's Alabama.
Right.
It's Alabama.
We
That's
know.
why.
We see the guys in the polos on the field.
And also, before we go to break, too, there's a buddy of mine who actually works in Mississippi now, is from New Mexico, and was sharing a tweet about the New Mexico coach and his reaction to Nick Saban getting all upset about the whole fact that they want to limit his staff size, who can get on the headsets or whatever.
To 20, yeah.
The head coach at New Mexico State said, Coach Saban upset with the new NCAA headset rule. Number one, we can't afford 20 headsets. Number two, 20 people, I'd have to get my AD, his staff, and my wife on headsets to get to 20 coaches. LOL.
Yeah.
So
That's funny. Yeah.
It's all right. Don't play football anymore.
Nobody really cares. Nobody ever feels bad for old Nick.
Why is that? I mean, we can't get into it too much, but why does nobody ever challenge him? No one ever challenges
Oh,
Belichick.
I don't know
Can you
that.
not, because they're winning and you look sour and coaches don't want to look petty and sour? Like, somebody take a shot at him.
You mean
Say that
like
he's
a
not,
coach or a
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not fair what he's. I mean, I don't want to say it's not fair, but there's got to be some way you can frame it to where what he's doing, nobody else is able to do it, and that's why he keeps winning. But no one says it. No one says it.
Yeah, I don't know. You want to piss them off.
I guess so. All right,
Sorry for the language.
It's
kids.
fine. I won't.
No, kids aren't going to school anymore. School's out.
Yeah, they're out
School's
playing
out
ball
for summer. Yeah, well, they're sleeping. Hopefully,
Yeah, seriously.
they're playing Fortnite. Whatever they're doing, they probably haven't even gone to bed yet.
Final break. Coming right back. It's Wake Up Warchant, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
You're locked in to Wake Up Warchant on 97.9 ESPN Radio.
Hope your Friday's going well. Hopefully Corey's made it a little bit better. I'm just here for the ride. It's Wake Up Warchant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. Don't forget the show, first off, brought to you by For the Table Hospitality. But get your votes in. Most famous tackle/hit in FSU history. Nick Moody. These are the actual people that made onto the ballot, Corey.
Okay.
Nick Moody on Jeff Demps of the Gators, 2010.
Nope, that's not it.
Greg Reed on Marcus Lattimore, 2010 Peach Bowl.
No, but that was a good one. Memorable for sure.
Marvin Jones destroying Larry Jones, Miami in 92.
Yeah, that's up there.
Nigel Bradham's, quote, legal hit versus Miami in 2011. It was legal. Just we put quotations around it because they deemed it illegal.
I mean, yes, it was but I wouldn't put it next to Marvin.
Stanford Samuels lays out Roscoe Parrish against Miami in 2003.
All these Miami hits.
Get some. And Stan Shiver lights out on quarterback from Florida, Cal Morris, back in 88.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it would be between Marvin in the 92 game against Miami and then Stanford Samuels.
It's about a 2-horse race. Stanford Samuels has got 33% of the vote. Marvin Jones has 29% of the vote.
Okay. You'd hope, I mean, it's really not fair, but you'd hope Marvin would win because he was such a great player, and that's like his iconic hit, and he was awesome. You know, he finished fourth in the Heisman vote.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Crazy. So, you'd hope that would be one. Also, because Miami literally scored on the next play after Stanford Samuels hit, and it was such a gross, awful game. You'd hope Marvin would win. But I get the Stanford thing because I was in the stadium, and that
Sent to the hospital.
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah, he ruptured a spleen or something. Yeah. He was internal bleeding.
Punctured lung, maybe. I don't know.
Something like that. But Roscoe had a nice little career in the NFL, I think, after that. But
Bills.
Yeah, it's one of those two for sure. And I would vote for Marvin, because I was also at that one. It's weird. This is a good trip down old memory lane for Clark Dog.
Braggart Clark.
But even in that stadium, the place went when Marvin hit their guy. Like, it's just, the guy was so good, man. He was such a good college football player.
I think everybody under 40 is probably voting for Stanford Samuels. I think everybody over 40 is probably voting for Marvin Jones.
Well, people, even if you're under 30, if you're under 10, vote for Marvin. Get Marvin one of these plays. Stanford Samuels even has a kid on the team. We all get to hear about Stanford Samuels all the time. We all know that play. Give Marvin some love.
All right, back to the questions. And guys, if you could, just try to leave them concise, nice and tight, punchy. Kind of leave them, about 45 seconds or less. And
that's not guys, punchy?
Yeah, 30.
25.
Oh, that's tough. Let's not. But we want your calls.
We definitely want your calls.
Keep them coming.
Yeah, I think under 30 would be.
Do you remember the number, Corey?
Yeah, it's 850-7-donkey-6. No, it's not donkey. It's yaks. 7 yaks 6.
30. 7 yaks 30.
7 yaks 30. No,
so you remember a little bit of it.
All right.
850-792-5730. And ladies, be the first to call. We haven't had a lady call in yet. We know you're listening because we asked if there were female listeners, and our Twitter exploded. So make a phone call.
Yeah.
Don't be shy. All right. Without further ado, another phone call.
Wake up, Warchant!
Oh, boy.
Hey, Aslan and Corey, it's Chris from beautiful sunny Phoenix. My question is, how do you think Coach Willie's going to do with having two quarterbacks with some success and a year under their belt? Because he had Flowers in South Florida and nothing behind him. He had Justin Herbert at Oregon and nothing behind him. And now he's got two guys with a little bit of a resume. The second part of that, who do you think is going to be the better backup? Supportive, always ready, and making sure that the team is going in the right direction. I don't know if Willie's going to have a short leash or long leash, or what's he going to do when, there's a couple of turnovers in the first half. Is he going to be Yankee one? And always remember something, Aslan. You don't beat you. When you swipe right, you just swipe right. Don't you be you. Thanks, guys.
First off, thanks for calling, I guess, 30,000 feet in the air. Or was he skydiving over Phoenix?
Probably on the road, probably the wide open road of
Man,
Arizona.
that sounded like a wind tunnel.
Sorry.
So the question was, who would he?
Well, I mean, let's not say that he had nobody behind them. Marlon Mack was a really good running back. Royce Freeman was a really good running back, unless he was saying that Willie got these guys.
I thought he was talking about like quarterbacks behind him. Like he had no backups.
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought he meant.
All right. Well, that's why you're here.
Because then he asked the next question. I think James Blackman would be a better backup.
Yeah.
But
in terms of who would be a supportive, better teammate.
Yeah, but again, my man can grow up. He can change. He might have already. It was just a rough 8-month stretch there for 12 with the off-the-field stuff. And so there's nothing to lead you to believe he'd handle it overly well. But he might. And then I want to go back to the other question, though, real quick. I do, and we've talked about it before, but that, I think they will blow out a lot more teams with this offense. I think if it won't be such a struggle to put points on the board. I think in the third quarter of some of these games, they will just overwhelm teams. And they'll, a 9-play drive in the first half will turn into a 4-play drive touchdown in the second half.
All right, let's go to the last question.
Hello, this is Roderick from North Carolina. First of all, I want to start off by saying I love you guys' show.
Love you too, man.
And keep up the good work. And last week I had called and Ashlon got on me about saying Jimbo Fisher wasn't a top 5 coach. First of all, I want to say that I love what Jimbo Fisher did with the program. He brought us up from the dumpster fire that we was. And actually, I think he should have took over 2 to 3 years earlier than what he did. But to just suggest Jimbo Fisher is a top 5 coach outside of the 2 years that he had Jameis Winston, and we constantly bringing in top 5 recruiting classes and losing 3 or 4 games regularly. You have to explain that to me some more, Aslan. Appreciate it.
That's a good question. And it was, you know what it was? It was polite. He disagreed with you, but he was polite.
That's the thing. You can't just say that you're going to remove 2 years and what else has he done. That's part of what he did. You have to factor that in.
I guess I didn't hear the...
He was basically saying, okay, outside of those 2 years...
No, I mean, I didn't hear what you said yesterday that he... last week that he was last week.
Yeah, because I was by myself in this room. It was really lonely.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
I basically just said that I do think that he is one of the best, probably top 5 coaches in college football because of what he built here. I mean, what he inherited from a legend who steps in for a legend and does what he does that quickly and gives us, gave us our best quarterback in program history probably ever, the best receiver statistically, the best running back arguably ever. I mean, maybe not even arguably. I mean, all these things that he accomplished here, the way he brought everything up, modernized the way that they have. I mean, I guess we can't give too much credit because everything that he had rebuilt, the locker rooms, everything is already obsolete, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can just be like, well, listen, the other years he kind of sucked. I mean, he went 10-3, beat Michigan in a bowl game, lost to Houston because he didn't have a quarterback. I mean, that's his fault, though. That's ultimately his fault not having quarterback in 15 to take over. But no, I mean, I just think I don't know why we divorce that. Like, other than 2 years, like you can't factor that in. Well, you have to. He did that. He did it.
Well, yeah, he was the reason that Jameis was here. And, I think if you take Jameis off that team, I'm not sure they win the national championship, but they're in the running, even if they have Coker on that team. That said, his legacy will ride or die with what he does in College Station.
For sure.
If he's just okay there, then it's going to be a one-hit wonder with an all-time quarterback. That's the only way he could turn into a championship contender was that. Yeah. And once he didn't have him, sorry. So I think that's when we'll know. Certainly from accomplishments, there's not 5 coaches in the country coaching right now that have accomplished more than Jimbo. When you talk about the 29-game winning streak, the national champ, I mean, how many active coaches have a national championship? 3, maybe?
4. Him, Dabo, Nick, Urban.
Yeah, and I would put Dabo, Nick, and Urban for sure above them.
Yes.
But other than that, who else?
But not even for sure what? Because, like, Dabo won the last 3. What about the first 3? You know?
I mean, I think Dabo is winning at a place that's harder to win. I'd say that.
Well, they've been building football-only facilities without in the snap of a finger.
Like, apparently,
Jimbo
right?
gets fired over it.
I mean,
forced out.
Clemson was a non-entity for 20 years, and then Dabo turned them into this. Florida State, was a non-entity for 10, 8.
Right.
But anyway, I'd probably put Chris Peterson ahead of him, but I don't know.
Whoa.
It's all different stuff.
Oh, jeez, the show went off the rails.
It's
We're
all
done
different.
now. We're done now.
I'd put Herm Edwards ahead of him.
Corey,
Lane Kiffin.
Before we go, do you have anything to say? We got about 20 seconds. You want to tell anybody at home anything?
I mean, look, Brady, go to bed. You don't need to be up listening to this right now. It's 6:30 in the morning. Everyone else, I love you. I can't wait to see you. And this has probably been the best week of my life. And I'm glad you were here for it.
Let's wake up Warchant. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.